Hello and welcome to WRED's The Red Eye. I'm Zodia Wagner alongside my partner Joseph Lunine. Joseph, what's going on today's show?
Thanks, Zodi. Today, we will be looking at a selection of new segments that our producers at WRED have put together.
First, we have a look at the potential perils and profits waiting for senior students who take a gap year after high school. Then we have pieces from Joseph, Parker, and James, going over the recent boys hockey game, and Joseph going over Code Red's trip to the first Buckeye Regional Robotics Competition in Cleveland, Ohio.
To finish off the show, we have the most recent Inside ICSD with Dr. Brown, and also a collection of pretty inspirational segments to show you. First, we have Molly discussing the joy of walking, followed by Ploy talking about her family and cooking.
Now let's talk about gap years. I know a couple of students who have considered taking time off after high school before entering college.
Sounds enticing, but also potentially problematic. WRED producers Michael Gould and Patrick Hall have this insightful report.
What's a gap year?
What would you do if you took a gap year?
Well, I would work on my rap career. You know, my name is D-Dash, and I rap.
I would work and travel if I had the money to travel.
I think I would join the Peace Corps because I'm really into helping people.
I would go to a new country and learn a new language, maybe.
Right after high school, college may not be the thing for you. More and more colleges are allowing students to take a gap year. This is when a high school student takes a year off from school. During this gap year, a student might want to work, travel, or pursue a dream. However, there could be potential problems, such as missing opportunities, falling behind in education, or losing the drive to go to school. I looked into how to prepare for a potential gap year. I talked to one of our school guidance counselors, Sharon Goublo, and English teacher, Mr. Reif. And finally, we went around IHS and spoke to some of our students.
Why do you think students take a gap year?
I think students take a gap year because they're not quite ready to go to college. That could be one thing. Maybe they don't think that they have enough on their transcript, so to speak, as far as activities that they've done, volunteer work. So this is a way for them to maybe do something unique by working in a city or going to New Orleans to clean up or activities like that. It just enhances their record so that when they do apply to college, they have a more interesting record to present.
What do you think might be a productive use of one of those gap years?
Students have done what's called City Year, where they go to a city like New York City and work with inner city students. They may go to, I've mentioned New Orleans, a place where there's a lot of need for cleanup. I had a student a couple of years ago that went to New Orleans after Katrina and did some cleanup work. It builds character, it builds teamwork skills. The students work in teams. There's other activities students can do. I've had students go to Europe and get involved with educational programs, such as taking classes in Spain. I had a student work on an organic farm in France for a half a year, and that also builds their personal character as well, learning to speak with other people from other countries and learning about their culture. There's also a program called Semester at Sea that a lot of college students do, but high school graduates can also jump on board, so to speak, and they travel all around the world for an entire semester and go to all sorts of different countries and do all sorts of different activities.
Wow.
Yeah.
You think there might be some consequences of taking a gap year, like maybe a student gets in trouble during that gap year?
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, none of the students that I know have ever had any negative consequences to it. I suppose that if a student doesn't use their time wisely and they use it to party and not do what they're supposed to do, then they could be sent home. I mean, there's a lot of rules surrounding these programs that are offered. Some students will choose to just backpack across Europe, for instance, but those kinds of activities aren't really looked upon very favorably by colleges. So when a student does a gap year, they should definitely do a specific program that's geared towards building those kinds of skills and experiences.
How might well, how do you start a gap year? Do you just contact the college, or do you just not go to college? How does it work?
There's a couple different ways you can do that. If you choose to apply to colleges anyway and you get accepted, you could get what's called a deferment, where you start college a year later. You're accepted, but you just start a year later. Other students decide that they're not going to apply to college, they're just going to do the gap year. And so they'll contact the different gap year programs and find what's best for them, and then just start out. And mid-year through their year of doing the gap year, they can start their application process. And they can even contact their former school counselor to help them with that college application process.
Wow. Well, thank you for answering my questions. They're very informative.
Well, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
No problem. I'm here with Mr. Reif, one of our English teachers at IHS. So, Mr. Reif, what do you think would be a useful thing to do during a gap year for a student?
Yeah, so some students are going to find the gap year is going to be helpful in terms of developing financial assets. A lot of students figure that some colleges are going to be too expensive, maybe, considering what they have as a senior in high school. So they spend a year accumulating some capital, some income that then they can use. They may also want to spend the year, along with working, developing important skills for potential internships. Many two-year degrees now at community colleges are excellent, but they also sometimes leverage internships at businesses or other community assets, and it helps to have some skills already built up. And so a gap year can be both for getting some money to help you when you're actually going to college and independent, but also developing skills that'll give you a little edge over other students.
Well, what might you think would be not so good to do during a gap year?
Oftentimes what I've seen happen during gap years is students start out in a very positive direction, but they sometimes lose focus in terms of what they're trying to do. Maybe they also want to travel. They want to do something that develops some of their passions. What usually happens, whether or not it's developing income or developing skills or developing a passion, is they lose sight of the goal. And so what I'd always recommend is that when we're developing our plan for the gap year is really set specific goals and really follow them. It's not so much the gap year that's the problem, it's not fulfilling the goal. That's why colleges are often a nice next step, because they have built in. You have to go to class, you have to have a semester program. The gap year can be done well, but you have to really decide, I'm going to follow this goal, here are my steps. That's usually what trips people up, not having that identified in their mind.
Do you know of any students that have been successful with the gap year?
Absolutely. I know some people that actually ran small businesses when they got out of high school. A colleague of mine ran a small music business out of her home. Some people went right into the workforce, figured out what they wanted to do, then got more skills doing that. I know someone that went for a year traveling, and that became his career. He went to China, figured out he liked it there, got some linguistic skills, some teaching skills, and then he ended up teaching in China for the next 10 years. And so it depends on if you know what you want to do, I would recommend going to college. But if you're still figuring it out, business, developing interests, maybe developing cultural skills, the gap year can be really successful.
Wow, well, your information has been very helpful. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Mike.
Overall, you can do whatever you want with your gap year. You can work, travel, or just enjoy the time off. But be safe, be smart, and enjoy the journey that it takes you on.
There's a lot to consider before taking a gap year. Still, sounds pretty cool if you can do it right.
Absolutely. However, there are risks, and it looks like you need to set some very specific goals and have some help or a team behind you to be successful.
Speaking of teams, we have Avon and Miriam speaking quickly about some sports events that have been going on in the past few months.
Thanks, Zodi. Ithaca's spring season has officially begun, and the Ithaca High School track team has kicked off their season with a bang. On April 1st, the Ithaca Little Red competed against the Binghamton High School track team in the team's first home dual meet of the season. There are multiple standout performances, such as Jordan Hackworth's school record-breaking long jump of 23 feet and 2 inches, and Jean Sinon's remarkable high jump of 6 feet, which led to a blowout win on the boys' side, Ithaca winning 105-36. On the girls' side, there was a marginal win, with the score being Ithaca 77, Binghamton 63. Ithaca also won their second straight meet on April 5th in the New York Penn Invitational held in Windsor, New York, as a result of multiple dominating performances, which have put a handful of Ithaca athletes in the top 5 performers of their respective event in the entire state. Specific athletes that stood out include Monday Simone's 11:27 time, which was very close to qualifying for states and is currently ranked second in the state in the 100-meter dash. Jordan Hackworth jumped 21 feet and 6 inches, which was good enough for a ranking of second in the state in the long jump. Osaba Arewele triple jumped 43 feet and 6 inches, which narrowly beat out Monday Simone's jump of 43 feet and 4 inches, and both are respectively ranked number 4 and 5 in the state in the triple jump. In other news, after a couple of tough losses at home, the Ithaca boys varsity lacrosse team regained its winning ways after a hard-fought 10-8 victory against Binghamton. Charlie Estills scored a team high of 4 goals. So that's the latest in sports news and stats. Joseph?
It's great that Ithaca High is doing so well. For more sports events, we have a game overview from the IHS boys hockey game against Messina in Utica, done by producers James and Parker.
Messina is a small New York town located on the northern New York-Canadian border. It has a population of nearly 13,000 people. From these 13,000 come a group of incredible athletes, the Messina varsity boys hockey team, 2014 New York State champions. The reason we care about this little town is because their boys ice hockey team faced off against our very own Little Red in the state finals. Ithaca High School has many great sports teams, and this year many of them did very well. The boys varsity hockey team is a shining example of this. They finished their season as state champion finalists, losing to Messina 4-1 in an incredible game at Utica's Memorial Auditorium. During the regular season play, they had 12 wins, 10 losses, and 1 tie. After winning their respective sections and beating another team in the quarterfinals, 4 teams went to Utica, where the semifinals games and championship game were held. These 4 teams were Scarsdale, ranked 15th, with 21 wins and 4 losses, Messina, ranked 14th, with 21 wins and 4 losses, Fairport, ranked 9th, with 19 wins, 6 losses, and 1 tie, and Ithaca, ranked 31st. Going into overtime, with the odds against them, Messina beat Fairport 2-1, sending them to the finals. The game between Scarsdale and Ithaca was dominated by Ithaca, with a lead of 6-2 going into the third period, and winning with a final score of 6-4, sending Messina and Ithaca into the finals to face each other. Messina has made it to the state finals 7 times, and Ithaca has made it 8 times. Both the teams are tied with the most wins in all of New York State, with 5 wins. This will be the 8th time for Messina and 9th time for Ithaca, reaching the finals, with this one game determining who will be the team with 6 wins, the most in all of New York State Division I hockey teams. Here are some of the goals and highlights from this very closely fought game. With this heartbreaking defeat, Ithaca headed home. This will be the last season for 8 of these players, as they are seniors, who are going off to college or other places next year. Carrying the pride of Ithaca, this team will have the date 2013-2014 added to the banner in their ring, which shows all of the state-bound teams over the years. After they get back to Ithaca, players clean out their lockers, reminiscing over the foolishness and the team bonding that occurred in the locker room, feeling the missing weight in their hockey bags of the red and gold jerseys of Ithaca. But some will be back next year. Some will leave. The team will be back next year for the 2014-2015 season. Hopefully next year they can catch up with Messina.
The hockey team wasn't the only one to see some action. Ithaca High School's robotics team, Code Red, competed at the first Buckeye Regional competition. It was held in Cleveland, Ohio.
I put this report together on this local team that has been doing great work at the national level. Here's the report. Thursday, March 20th to Saturday, March 22nd, the Ithaca High School robotics team, Code Red Robotics, traveled to Cleveland, Ohio for the Buckeye Regional First Robotics Competition. This being the first competition of the year, the team was stoked to have their robot compete for the first time. 6 weeks of hard work and determination came down to how well the robot worked on the field in competition. On Friday, the qualification round started, which determined the teams who would be Alliance captains in eliminations. Code Red's robot did somewhat well, but was not paired with the best Alliance partners for most of the qualification rounds. The qualifications continued on into Saturday, with Code Red being ranked 39 at the end. With this rank, the chances of being chosen for an alliance were pretty slim. However, fate was on their side, and the number 1 ranked team chose them to be on their alliance. Before the final matches started on Saturday afternoon, the alliance of Team 639, Team 910, and Team 846 got together on the test field to prepare their robots to work together. Towards the beginning of the finals, things didn't look so great when Code Red's robot broke down, but the rest of the alliance was able to carry a victory in that round. Many victories were made, all the way to the final 3 matches. Code Red Robotics, in an alliance with Team 910, the Folly Freeze, and Team 846, the Funky Monkeys, soared all the way through these matches and won the whole competition.
Drivers behind the line. Blue needs a win to stay alive. Ready? Let's count it down together. 3, 2, 1, go! Here we go, folks. Red Alliance scores first, scoring in their high goal. Foul charge to the Red Alliance. It'll be the Foley Freeze. First team at 9-10. It'll pick up that foul. That'll put the Blue Alliance out in front 50-30. Here at the opening of period number 2, that's the teleoperated period. Red needs a win to stay in it. If Blue wins, they will be crowned champion. A lot of scrambling back and forth now. Game pieces now inside the white zone. Blue game piece moves into the blue zone. Picked up by 739 in position. Trying to score at a high goal. Ball bounces off the Alliance wall. Blue Alliance working on a 3-robot assist now. Red Alliance certainly is not sitting still. 846, Funky Monkeys on the move. They're inside the red zone. Monkeys with the ball, and they enter it. Scoring in the low goal. That'll be a 3-robot assist. They got 134 points. Blue Alliance working on their end of the field, down inside the blue zone. Keep your eye on Breeze. Code Red Robotics, the defender down there. RoboCats score down low now. Keeping it close. Red Alliance scores again. 155 to Tosses the ball over the truss to the human player. Whitford puts it back into the field to play. Monkeys are there. Trying to score it. They do so down low. 2 run assist will give them 176. 5 seconds, 4 seconds left. Time has expired. In the closing seconds, the Blue Alliance was working on a 3-robot assist. Head referee confers with his staff in the center of the field. We should have the results here for you in just a moment or so. Your score is in. It's official. 176 to 143.
It's great to see a non-traditional team doing well for Ithaca High School.
I wish I had a ping pong team. I'd be great at that.
Indeed. On the topic of athletics, Brian Okumu got the chance to talk with Dr. Brown and the athletics director about new athletic buildings and some sports. Let's see what they had to say.
Hello, and welcome to Inside ICSD with Dr. Brown, a show with Superintendent Dr. Lavelle Brown that takes a look inside the Ithaca City School District. I'm Brian Okumu, a senior at Ithaca High School, and our show is produced by my fellow English and digital media classmates at Ithaca High School.
Again, welcome. Today our guests are Ms. Danielle LaRoche, our Wellness and Athletics Director, and Ms. Molly Long, who is also a varsity lacrosse and basketball player. And we're very excited to have them here today to talk about our athletic program and the year-round expectations that are a part of this culture of excellence. So let's start there. Molly, what do you think about your year-round expectations for athletics, and what does that mean for you?
Well, I think keeping up academically is really important throughout the year, because without that, we wouldn't be able to play. As well as when you're off the court or the field, you represent Ithaca in a good way, in a responsible way.
Thank you. Mr. Rose.
I'm going to echo what Molly said. It's really important academically that you are staying on top of your work, that you're going to class, that you're being respectful to your teachers, and that you're getting good grades. I mean, I think that's the foundation of why you're here, and that helps propel you to be an athlete. And I think the other piece of it is that we need to understand that we have state-of-the-art facilities here. So student athletes need to take advantage of the Strength and Conditioning Center, being there all year round for injury prevention, to get stronger, to get faster, to get better, work with our strength and conditioning coach, Kelly Gordon. I think those are the things that are the year-round expectations for our athletes.
So guys, what are some highlights from your participation?
Well, I think the bonds that I get from being with these girls and the coaches for 4 months, I can take on with me for the rest of my life.
I think the highlight of my position is really watching our student athletes succeed on the field. There's a lot that goes into running a sports program, the busing, the scheduling, the uniforms, the equipment. So when I get the time to just go out on the field and watch the players play and win games and lose games and have this great experience, that's by far the highlight of my position.
Some things you're working on, some things you wish to see in the near future?
I think maybe if we increase the competitiveness, maybe like schedule some games where we play teams out of our leagues, or somehow create a way where the best athletes in our school want to participate. It's hard when there's a bunch of travel teams or club teams that kids go to because maybe they feel like they get more attention from coaches. But maybe we should make it feel like play for Ithaca and you can excel after high school.
Great answer. Mr. Mo, some things that you're working on, some changes you wish to see?
Yeah, one of the things was our new initiative this year with all the athletes was end of the season surveys. We were really interested in finding out the experience of what our athletes felt about their facilities, their equipment, their coaches. So after Your season is over. Every student gets a personal survey that they have an opportunity to fill out. That was one of the big initiatives that I'm proud of that we were able to achieve this year. Next year, I'd really like to begin our Captain's Council, where once a month all the captains of the teams get together and meet and learn from each other and talk about leadership. And that way you can troubleshoot. If you have an issue on your team, maybe there's something going on in another team that you can get some ideas.
Sure. How do you feel about the evaluation process, your first year doing that?
I think, I love the surveys, actually. Yeah, I took one for basketball, and it really, because we didn't really have an opportunity to let anyone know about how we feel about the coaching and, you know, the whole atmosphere of the season. But what you were just talking about, I think that's a great idea, because I'm a captain for girls lacrosse, and we don't really have that, so that sounds great.
Right.
Well, also being an athlete, I haven't taken the surveys yet, but I'm really excited to see what they're like.
Great time to be a student athlete here. I saw you guys out on the field this morning at 6 a.m. when it was cold.
Yeah.
I've seen you out there in the middle of the night, so we appreciate your participation and great leadership also. I know in my role, I'm oftentimes criticized for the events I'm not at, more so than the ones I'm able to go to. And I think that's part of what comes with the job. But when thinking about you, Ms. LaRoche, there are dozens of events every day. And I know you're not at every one of them. How do you manage it all, and do you get some of the feedback I receive when folks recognize when you're not at something more so than when you are?
Yeah, it's difficult. I tried. We have 23 varsity sports, 21 JV sports, 11 modified sports. So when you think about their schedules home and away, and one team can play 20 games, it does lend itself to be difficult for me to be at everything. I do try to get to as many home events as I can and as many postseason play, but as a mother of two, you know, of someone who has a family to take care of, and so I just try to do the best I can and get to everything, but I can't ever get to everything. But I do appreciate my event staff being at all the home events and keeping me in contact and texting me and emailing me all the things that happen. So.
Yeah, I see you at a lot. So for you two, what type of support do you feel from your administrators, your teachers, the school community when you're on the fields and on the courts?
Well, I don't know. Like whenever I'm walking down the street, it's good to like some people come up to me and say, "Oh, I saw you play last night. You did a good job." You know, it makes me feel good knowing that the community actually cares about what I'm doing on the field.
Yeah, like what Brian said. And also, I think Ithaca sports are being more recognized, not only with this show, because I think we're actually starting to live stream them, some games, but also it's fun, like what Brian said, walking down and maybe you're wearing like an Ithaca basketball sweatshirt and they're like, "Oh, yeah, you know, I read about your game in the newspaper," some other site like that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Anything else you wish to add or wish for us to know?
I just think what you're doing with the program is really good. I saw you at our game last night, which is great, and it feels like it's going in a more positive direction, the whole athletic department.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of wish I could stay for one more year just to see how things are going, but I mean, it's still, I just love the way things are going, and where they'll be.
Anything you would add, Mr. Rowe?
The only thing that I would add is just, you know, go out and see your teammates play, go out and see other teams support as many programs as you can, go to as many games. I think it's really important when you're playing to see your friends, to see other teams, to see people in the crowd cheering for you. It makes a huge, huge difference. So my message is, you know, get out and go to as many events as you can go to. I think that's what kind of makes us a community. So.
And last thing I would add, you two are great examples of all that's good about student athletics here in our school and our community. And there are hundreds of others that are part of Ithaca High School athletics that are doing a great job as well. I know we're making a difference when my young children who aren't in school yet, they talk about Queen Elsa from Frozen, and they talk about student athletes here. They're the heroes. They're picking up basketballs and soccer balls, and they're picking up the sticks already. And they mention your name, so I want to thank you for being role models for my young people and my children as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else you have to add? All right. Well, with that, we will close, and I thank you for tuning in to another episode of Inside ICSD with Dr. Brown. And please send us your suggestions, comments, questions, compliments, and we hope to include those, as we've done today, in future episodes of this show. Thank you.
There sure is a lot going on at IHS in terms of athletics. We have so many new facilities. It's great.
Yeah, my PE class used them quite a lot this winter. Some people find sports pretty inspiring, but Zodia, what do you find inspiring in your life?
Kilimanjaro, the beauty of Africa.
Well, we have 2 pieces done by producers here at WRED in which they share with us what inspires them. Let's check out the first one done by our very own Molly Long.
Inspiration comes in all shapes and sizes, especially when living in such a beautiful place like Ithaca. I believe one's imagination is the main ingredient to inspiration, as it allows you to put an image to your inspiration. I find myself most inspired when I'm walking around my neighborhood, listening to Pandora radio because of the endless possibility to daydream and escape reality for the short time I am walking. As I walk around and see all the familiar houses and natural scenery, I imagine myself in a different world, sometimes correlating with a specific place or thing I am walking past, or maybe the song I am jamming out to. Come on my journey with me as I walk with my little dog Olivia and my mother, and experience what I do every time I go on a stroll through the neighborhood. See those green domes off in the distance? Well, I think this is what happens in those green domes every night. Weird, right? Your mind can come up with some interesting things when simply observing nature and all that it offers. Staring up the road and pray to God I see headlights. Every time I walk past this house coming up on the left, I imagine myself turning into Catwoman. This may be because I once got yelled at by the owners, and every time I walk by the house, I get an urge of rage.
You gotta be kidding me.
No guns, no killing.
Where's the fun in that?
You may have noticed my mother earlier in the video, but during this time in the walk, I usually put in my headphones and start jamming out to some music and zone her out a little. Love you, Mom.
Don't worry about a thing. 'Cause every little thing gonna be alright. Singing, don't worry about a thing.
When I switch to a more upbeat song, I tend to think about next year at college and all the partying, studying I will be doing there.
Into pieces, but I need this, yeah, I need this.
My oh my, this snow. If only it was golden sand off the coast of Malibu in front of my beach house, where I live with my biker boyfriend, who takes me on casual motorcycle rides every weekend.
All over my soul, I'm falling to pieces, to pieces.
As you can see, it doesn't take much for me to become inspired. I simply observe my surroundings and use my imagination to alter reality now or in the future. And with that, I leave you with these wise words from the one and only Dr. Seuss. I like nonsense. It wakes up the brain cells. Fantasy is a necessary ingredient in living.
Molly sure does have a great imagination.
To round off our show, we have a piece by Ploy Chutantaranon, another producer here at our studio.
Hey, didn't her parents own a Thai restaurant near Wegmans? I used to eat there. It was so swoopin'.
Yeah, they did. I ate there many times as well. There was some great Thai food. In fact, that's one of the things she did her segment on. Let's check it out.
Everyone knows where Wegmans is. It's that huge supermarket that I go to every Sunday because it was just across the street from a very special place, my family's restaurant, Thai Cuisine. Over 20 years ago, my father, Sanit Chutantaranon, opened up this family-run business with his brothers. A few years ago, his brothers left to open up their own restaurants, Madeline's, Zaza's, Mia, and Lemongrass in Syracuse. This left my dad with the foundation of all Chutantaranon restaurants. I have many memories in and around this special place. I had great friendships with all of the waiters ever since I was a little kid. They would find ways to make up games to play with me around the restaurant when they had nothing to do. It was kind of nice because it was boring being by myself or with my brother, who teased me all the time. Sometimes my brother and I would color in some paper geckos, the symbol of our restaurant, also painted on the bar. As I got older, I started to work in the restaurant, whether it be hosting, bussing tables, waiting on tables, or even cooking in the kitchen. I was considered the pad thai queen. Still being young, it was hard to have to work all the time rather than go out like most people did over the weekends. I never really enjoyed working all the time at such a young age. After dance classes, school, or hanging out, I would stop by the restaurant, help out, maybe make myself some food. It was almost like a love-hate relationship between me and Thai cuisine. I never really wanted to work there if it were involuntarily, but there are moments when I enjoy having a second place to go. In later years, I finally realized that I should have appreciated all of the opportunities that the restaurant had to offer. On February 28th, 2013, we closed our restaurant. It was all so sudden. One evening we were serving customers, then the same exact night after closing time, we were up until 3 in the morning moving things from the restaurant to my house and saying goodbye to all of the employees that have been like family to us. Sometimes I see the employees every so often, maybe around school or any other place like Barnes & Noble, and it would make me sad sometimes because I think about how we had such a great relationship. Every so often I would go to the Thai cuisine, turn on some music in my car and think. There are times when I would go out and walk around memory lane, finally ending at the door where there was now a huge lock, letting nothing in. I think about how much simpler life was with the restaurant. If I was hungry, I would ask my mom to bring back food. I had easy access to any ingredients that I needed. Sometimes visiting would calm me down. Sometimes it would make me sad. However, I always leave with the same conclusion. Everything comes to an end. You just have to learn to let go and keep living life. I have made so many other memories from that dark time to now, so many moments that are also worth remembering. However, I will never forget all of the memories, the food, the experience that I got and still use today, and the people that were involved with this sacred place. It will always be with me. Thai cuisine closed about a year ago, and it took me a year to let go, but I know that it's okay. I had always imagined myself taking over the family business until I hit high school. Being in such a stressful environment for so long made me realize that I don't want to go into this field of work. This drives me to do better in school in order to get a better education and hopefully find a job that is better than running a restaurant. A lot more goes into running a business than most people would think. I will definitely use these skills and apply it to a different short-term job, but as a career, running a restaurant is not what I am striving for. A family business also means working with the family, coming together to get the job done, communicating. I realize that we've lost some of that communication around my own house. Now that the restaurant is closed, there is time to make that connection come back again. Thinking about how close we all were when the restaurant was open makes me try hard to finally come closer as a family.
That piece really made me hungry, all that food. Anyway, that's all we have time for today. From WRED, I'm Zodia Wagner.
And I'm Joseph Lunine. Thanks for joining us on WRED. We'll catch up with you later in a few weeks. Until then, stay inspired, Ithaca.
And stay swooping.
Hey guys, what's up? I'm Jamison, and my boss says I can't go.
Vampire hunting is hard.
The other week I benched 400 pounds.
So I've been thinking this over, and I'm thinking that because I'm already awesome.
Okay, so since I teach film studies, I'm gonna try to shoot for about a movie a day on average.